Good morning, church, and Merry Christmas. My name's Dave, and this is the musing for the final week of 2023. Let me tell you a story. One day, the scientists and the philosophers reached the mountain of truth, and they began to climb it. Of course, the two groups approached the mountain from different sides and chose different pathways to the mountaintop. They struggled and struggled, and when they all finally arrived at the summit, they found a bunch of theologians who had been living there all along. Now, the point of that story is that the honest pursuit of truth will inevitably lead to God, the one who is truth, which is why so often non-Christian thinking ends up running parallel with what Christians believe. Now, one example of this comes from the ancient pagan philosophy of the Greeks. In a famous treatise known as the Dialogues, the philosopher Plato investigated, among other things, the notion of reality itself. What is real and what is not, and how can we tell the difference? And his answer to that question was the concept of what he called forms. What are the forms? Well, for example, there are in this world many chairs made of different materials and different styles and different sizes. But common to all of them is this idea of chairness. And Plato taught that all existing chairs are just expressions of this pure, idealized chair concept. And according to Plato, the idea of chair was the reality, and all physical chairs were only a kind of reflection of that reality. And he called these concepts forms, and he held that true reality lay with the forms, and that the physical world merely mimicked the forms. Now, while Plato was obviously not a Christian, his theory of forms has some corollaries in Christian theology. You see, in Plato's view, the physical world was less real than the world of forms, even though it was the world that we perceive with our senses. Seeing and hearing and touching, these put us in contact with physical reality. But true reality, Plato held, was not physical. Christians also understand that the most real things in creation are not the physical things. Instead, they are things like love, joy, honor, relationship, God. And one major indication that these are the more real things is that they are eternal. The physical world of matter will all pass away. Buildings will fall down, flowers will wilt, empires will crumble, mountains will erode, stars will burn out. Everything that our senses tell us is real is temporary. None of it lasts. All the things that last, the things that do not fade, those things that are eternal, are things that we cannot see or touch or smell. Surely eternal things are more real than temporary things. And even if our senses cannot directly perceive these things, we do perceive them. Our soul knows them when our eyes and ears do not. Jesus once said, "Store up for yourselves treasures in heaven." He wasn't talking about gold and silver. Surely heaven is not a place of physical things. The reality of heaven is the reality of God. Spirit, love, memory, experience, relationships. Isn't Christ teaching us that the physical world is the shadow and the spiritual world is the substance? Perhaps when unbelievers accuse us of living in an unreal fantasy, we should respond by pointing out that the things they put their trust in will all one day fail, fade, and disappear. But God will not. Love will not. Hope will not. Joy will not. And that real means more than just visible. God bless you all. Really.